what's the most important piece of an ownership of a digital asset? Vic, I'm going to kick off with you, and I'm going to work our way back down the line again.
I think it is the fact that now it's tied with your private keys, and that the government cannot just run and steal it from you. That's probably the biggest issue that is out there, and or of course somebody else that doesn't have your private keys. I think that degree of freedom is great, and by building all the registries of Liberland, and that doesn't just digital, but also land registry, car registry, ship registry, and everything has been built. Yesterday we had this presentation for all the citizens how the registries are working. So everything is basically tied with your private keys in your private wallet. You can, in a couple of seconds, the speed is also enormously important, right? Because like, think about it, like in Serbia we are fighting now for 2 years to do some changes in the cadastre because somebody just has the right to somehow stop it. And then nothing happens in the society. If you cannot change ownership and you are not sure if the title is yours, why would you invest into that country, right? And if you have this situation that within seconds you have the completely clear title to the piece of land where you can start building, that's a completely different situation. That's why Dubai is so successful, right? That you can really get things through fast, but think how much faster, like a blockchain register where there will be no middleman, no bureaucracy in the middle to decide if you can make this land transfer or because everything is just smart contract. How much better that will be than any kind of existing state. I think that will be pretty cool and something that will bring a lot of attention basically, and a lot of countries will want to move to fully blockchain-based registries where you just follow simple rules that will allow you to transfer any kind of title within a split of second.
Yeah, awesome. Jack?
Very good. I would like to elaborate a little bit on Vic, his comments. Yeah, I think the legal ownership of digital assets, I think it's not a privilege, but a right. And I've got my own experience with digital assets. I put it on an exchange, a centralized exchange, and I gave my coins away, as to say, because I didn't have the private key myself. And it's always not your key, not your coin. The Mt. Gox many years ago. Recently, the fucking scammers of FTX, they run away with many coins. So if you invest yourself, always keep the assets in your own hands. And that is my advice for this day. I learned hard lessons myself, lost a lot of money as well. And if you are having digital assets on an exchange or wherever, also on decentralized exchanges, keep it also always for yourself. Then you're in control always. And you're not dependent on centralized authorities. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, well said. So not your keys, not your coin, right? That's always a solid catchphrase to remember. Let's keep going. Riz?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Cal, because I think unless you own or have control of all of the rights, do you really truly own the asset? Right. So it's a question which has been it's been raised in many cases, several really well-known cases globally. I think the most distinguished case that I can think of is the Mt. Gox bankruptcy. We've also got the Celsius bankruptcy case, which is ongoing now, where the courts looked at who truly owned the digital assets. Who was the custodian for it? Was it the exchange? Was it the platform? Or was it the investors? In the case of Celsius, which was decided in, I think it was the New York courts, they actually sided with Celsius because they had a very good click-wrap policy in place, where the terms of use actually defined the elements of a contract. So the investors had a contract that the digital assets would be transferred over to the platform, to Celsius, and therefore it fell within the remit of the creditors, when Celsius had to file for bankruptcy. So I think it's very important for investors and for people to understand the background contract that's in place when they purchase the digital asset, because it may only give you partial ownership, what we call partial rights to an asset. So I don't think there's any one right which is over and above all of the others. I think it's important to understand, what do you want to purchase the digital asset for? What do you want to do with it in the future? How do you want to use it? How are you going to gain the value from that asset? And I think once you understand, and once you're able to answer those questions and then understand the underlying contract behind that, then I think it puts the control back into the hands of the investor, which I think there is currently a lack of, because there is that knowledge gap at the moment. There's a lack of appreciation of the underlying contract that governs the asset.
Well said. Marko?
Yeah, I think those are some very valid points everyone is making, but beyond from just the bankruptcy aspect of things, I think we need to take a step back and see how we define assets as a whole. In the, let's say, traditional finance space, you have various assets and you're going to the bank to tell you how much something is worth. Like in a commodity transaction, for example, you have a bill of lading and they are guaranteeing that this is an actual claim over the shipment, right? And for anything, for accounts receivable and stuff. And we're just at the verge of this new era, and we need to see some degree of uniformity across different jurisdictions, different businesses, for this to be valid and to grow. And we can't take the same mindset that we had for the last 90 years to regulate this. It's like trying to take these blocks and trying to put the circle where the triangle is supposed to go. So there needs to be recognition of this, and not try to put the same frameworks that we've had so far and step up to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. Marko, you stepped us away from the B word, bankruptcy. I'm going to throw us straight back in there with everything we've seen in the last week. Riz raised Celsius, which was a fantastic example of a crypto firm that went bankrupt. This weekend we've seen two banks fail. I'll use the term fail, although I appreciate that's up for discussion. And ignoring any sideline commentary on the US government flat out attacking crypto, let's talk about ownership of digital assets and some of the protections that they give you and some of the weaknesses that they have as well, because we've got examples where things have happened, things have failed in both different lanes. So, and Marko, I'm going to kick off with you for this one, and we're going to work back down. Give me some of examples in your professional opinion of where digital assets excel fiat assets and where they're weaker than fiat assets in some situations as well. So times where they're stronger, times where they're weaker.
That's a very interesting question. Yeah, it's been quite a roller coaster. I mean, over the last, let's say, week, you can say Silicon Valley Bank or the unpegging of USDC. You're seeing these risks that were not, present before, that people would not think about. So you're trying to base a business and build it around this, and there's a completely different risk that you never thought about. So let me start with the weaker side. That's something that these, let's say, black swan events that no one thought about. On the strength side, and in terms of a digital asset, I guess it's all the technological innovation around it, the elements of composability of that you were not able to do more, or provenance, for example. So if you're investing in an asset and you're now able to have a whole series of information about that asset, the cash flows it's producing, the clients, how it's performing, and being able to see this very transparently, that's definitely a strong benefit from a digital aspect perspective, to keep it simple.
Awesome. Riz?
Yeah, I think, again, when I think about the strengths of digital assets, and it comes down to control over, again, whether it's a monopoly of rights or whether it's partial rights. And two of the main kind of, I suppose, strongest assets that I've come across. I don't know if you've heard of CryptoKitties. So CryptoKitties actually give full ownership rights, and it allows the custodian holder to commercialize that NFT up to, I think it's about $100,000 a year, I think they can they can commercialise it too. So I think when you look at projects like that where A, there's transparency, there's clarity, and B, where there is an investment or a transfer of full rights over to the custodian, I think those projects immediately come to mind as being the strongest argument for why digital assets are they're a great thing in the ecosystem. And on the flip side, when you look at weak assets, again, it's I know Tim mentioned it in the earlier talk when he was looking at sports, because that's his area. Very heavily involved in NFTs and sport. I've seen football. This is European football, so soccer, not American football. Issue tokens which have no utility. There are clubs like Barcelona, Real Madrid, AC Milan that have issued tokens where there's a real lack of understanding in terms of who their fan base is, who the market is going to be, who's going to purchase those, and then whether that market really understands NFTs and digital assets. So I think that's where the weak projects, and there will be, they'll be funneled out. We'll slowly, over the next few years, get rid of the weak projects and really focus on the strong projects, which will, I think, become an immersive part of our lives.
I love it. I'm also going to let you and Tim fight outside later, because I think Tim may have been responsible for some of those that you just referenced. Jan, let's keep it going with you.
Yeah, I think the digital assets itself, they excel for its features. And I don't think that is the point. Also not the weakness, because I don't see any weakness. I think more the ecosystem around it. That there are many flaws, like counterparty risk, hacks in some protocols, and also one layer above it, companies involved, that they don't have their checks and balances in check. And that is a very big problem for the crypto industry in itself, because that will hurt the trust in the crypto market and in general. And so if this can be solved in a very good manner, also take the good parts from the normal world, the financial world, with very good checks and balances, then there will be more trust also for users to enter the market. That's my point of view from a trader's perspective.
Well said. Vip?
Yeah, well, while the ownership of digital assets and many other assets in Liberland is immutable, the court cannot just transfer NFTs between the people. There is a token in our system which basically represents, it's your collateral in the society, it's your reputation. So while there is no way for the blockchain to change stuff of ownership, there can be a court order which basically decides this person has stolen this thing and he's obliged to give it back, and he's got liability of this much and this much money towards the other person, and everybody kind of in the society will be able to see this guy actually has a lot of problems, a lot of criminal record, and he needs to sort it out, he needs to pay back whatever he has stolen from other people, and that will make sure that we're dealing with this new age of private keys where everybody can basically run away with bitcoins that they steal. But on the other hand, they have a reputation in one society, here I would say Liberland, where everybody can exactly see what is their balance with the society they're living in. Are there actually criminals, or are they contributors to the society? And that's the way we have solved this problem, where really this private key society is giving people enormous amount of freedom, but the responsibility has to come also on the other end.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we've got limited time left, so I'm going to give you each a 20-second snippet last, so I'd like to give them some time back. Give me 20 seconds, because this is a regulatory panel, and I know we're all going to have emotions on this, on digital assets. Do we think they should be regulated? And if so, how? Give us a quick 20-second snippet, and I know this is a 3-hour-long conversation on its own. Vip, I'm going to start with you. We're going to work our way back down, and that should kind of wrap us up.
Yeah, you could probably expect from a country that is Liberland where it's 99% regulation, but regulation will be there. In Liberland, it will be on blockchain, and it will definitely not slow the transaction. So what we're planning to do is just making sure that this person is in good balance is in good shape and he can transfer whatever within a second. There will be no other super authority deciding if that person should or shouldn't make the transfer. So I think that's the main thing, you know, complete freedom for the transaction within Liberland.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Okay, for sure I'm a liberal, but during the years I've got experience that first of all I didn't like regulation, but I turned my view a little bit, and I think there should be some regulations, not to over-regulate everything. The key question is how. I think more coordination between countries, and that they have to cooperate together.
I love that. I love that. Riz?
Yeah, I think from a legal perspective, absolutely, I think they need to be, but I think the key here is transparency and clarity and building that trust, which will help with mass adoption. So yes.
Love it. And Marko?
Yes, absolutely. I think that there needs to be also collaboration more than between governments, also between the private sector, and not coming from the same roots that we've had up until now, and really collaborating and understanding that this is very different and you need to come at it from a very different perspective and understand the innovation that's here.
I love it. Guys, I want to thank you for being an outstanding